may probably been affected in one way or the other by cancer, either through a loved one or a friend, or maybe just an acquaintance, or even just read from news or newspapers or watched in the news. I'm sure we are aware that cancer is not an easy disease to manage. And this is even for adults. So you can imagine for a child, a person who is still growing, their immune system is still weak, their bodies are still weak, they can barely tackle any. Before you're going to get to cancer, we know malaria is already, or rather affects them. And so you can imagine a disease of the magnitude of cancer. It is heavy on them. It affects them in many ways. And I'm sure we're going to look at that in the course of our conversation this morning. The cancer treatment. First, they have to deal with cancer itself, a disease that is not easy to manage, that comes with a lot of pain. But then they have again to manage the side effects of treatment. Cancer treatment is actually, let's just call it as it is. The cancer treatment as it is, it's almost poisonous of course, it's poisonous to the cells. They have to poison the cancer cells so that they can die. So that, of course, the drugs then comes with very heavy effects that affects children, their bodies. We see adults, we can talk of adults because I'm sure in the room, most of us are adults. You see any adult who is battling cancer, they first of all start with losing their hair, and then their body just, they lose their weight and all that. So you can imagine a child going through the same regimes of treatment. Unfortunately, there is no the scientists haven't yet discovered separate or a treatment regime that is friendly to children, or that is specifically for children. So the same treatment that is given to adults is the same that is given to children, of course, in now lower quantities or prescriptions. And so children have to deal with very serious side effects of the treatment, but also the cancer itself. And that's why we chose to celebrate them, that these young children are really soldiers. They are fighting a monster that even adults can barely fight with. And so we just want to discuss a little bit about that. And I know we have people in the room who are going to share on different issues, and then we'll get to know the way forward so that we can bring, if there's any cancer soldier, a child who is here, we celebrate you, and we are going to do better to support you. And so before we delve into further discussions, or rather before I hand over to Halim to guide us on the way forward, I would like us to briefly just introduce ourselves so that we can know who is in the room. And I'll start with because I know everyone who is in the room. Let me start with the Mtoto News team, and I'll start with my colleague Liz, and then Liz will hand over to Brian King, and Brian King to Faith, and then Faith will hand over back to me. Then I'll introduce Halim, who will guide us in our discussion today. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Dan, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Amandla Busisa. I am the legal officer and researcher, and also the HR manager here at Mtoto News. And it's such an honor to be a panelist in this discussion. I'm also looking forward to learn as much as I'll be sharing just a few of the things that I have come across reading through childhood cancer. And I'm really looking forward to learn a lot from this webinar. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Brian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian King. I am 17 years old. I guess I am one of the children here. I'm quite excited to be celebrating this kind of heroes because we usually don't get to celebrate them at all. And I know Dan is especially passionate about them because for a while he's been telling us to go and visit them in the cancer wards, how he visits them. And I guess I'm very eager to actually learn how to celebrate them, how to appreciate them, because I know that personally, even children who do not have cancer go through a lot of challenges. And so imagine now a child who has to go through the extra challenge of cancer is just tedious and exhausting. So yeah, I'm very eager to learn and excited to be here as well. Dan, you forgot Omar. He's here with us, so I will hand over to Omar so that he can introduce Faith. So that he can hand over to Faith.
Yes, thank you so much, Brian. My name is Omar Hamed. I'm a child journalist here at Mtoto News and also a child advocate. I'm frankly quite excited to be here to be able to celebrate this day, to be able to appreciate these children and these people who are going through this challenge. And it's quite an honor. Um, Allow me to pass it straight to Faith Musau to be able to continue. Thank you.
Faith, if you can hear us, can you introduce yourself? If you're not able to speak, you can just post in the chat box. In the interest of time, I can introduce her. Faith Musau is also one of us at Mtoto News. She is a young adult. She's passionate about child advocacy, and we are glad to have you, Faith, in the room. I'm sure you'll get to know some more information about childhood cancer, so that as you carry out child advocacy or child advocacy out there, you can also champion for the welfare and well-being of cancer children. Let me, before I hand over to Halina, in 1 minute, let me tell you why I became passionate about cancer or children battling cancer. I am a Sunday school teacher. About 6 years ago in Eldoret, one of the kids or children in my class in Sunday school was visibly weak and sickly, and I observed her for about a month. And after that, I approached her to find out if she's unwell, and she told me yes, she was unwell. And I requested her to, of course, after a little conversation, I requested her to guide me to her parents. And after talking, she led me to her mom. I found out that she was from a single parent family, that is a single mother. And the mother was a hawker. So she was not in position to take this child for proper medication. So what she used to do, she used to buy painkillers. The child had a swollen abdomen, and of course her weight kept reducing, and that's why I was able to notice that. And after sharing with the mom, I took them to the nearest government facility, actually, Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. It's a referral hospital. It has a whole oncology department and every treatment required. Back then, NHIF was not as popular as it is right now. So they didn't have NHIF, they didn't have any cover. That's why the mom only used to manage the pain. And after taking her to MTRH, after examination, she was admitted very fast. Some samples were taken. We were told results will be out in a week. So she was admitted. And after a week, it was confirmed that she had cancer. Actually, in an advanced stage, in the 4th stage, actually the final stage. It was a sad moment because it was a late diagnosis, and yet it was a child known to me. I regretted why I didn't take action early, because I noticed her health issues almost a year earlier. But I waited. I think I only took action after it became very serious and visibly serious to everyone. And after that, unfortunately, we lost the girl just after a week. After diagnosis, before they determined what to do, they couldn't take her for chemo because she was weak. She needed blood transfusion. She needed a lot of interventions before any medication. And unfortunately, she succumbed just, I think, 5 days after that. And of course, visiting her in the hospital over those 5 days, I got exposed to many children, many. There was actually a pediatric oncology ward, and there were more than 37 children then. That was, I think, 2014. And of course, interacting with them, I learned their challenges. I saw them battling very serious issues, that yet they were very lively and resilient, and I just fell in love with them. And that's why I've been very passionate wherever I go. After moving to Eldoret, wherever any other town I go to, I always look out for any hospital with cancer kids, and I always go there to encourage them, psychological support and all that. I know we're going to discuss all that. I just felt like I need to share why I'm so passionate about these children. And right now I want to welcome Halim, who is the main host of our discussion today, to guide us in our discussions. My apologies, I'm not able to put on my video because of where I am. I don't want to expose patients in the ward, in the room that I am. But we are going to talk and share what we have to share. Thank you. Over to you, Halim.
Thank you, Daniel. And I'm so sorry that you're in a difficult situation, but I also want to acknowledge that you are doing the best that you can to be available for today's webinar. I was explaining to Dennis earlier that this webinar is important, and unfortunately we couldn't do it last week due to different circumstances, but I've made a promise to him. He has told me about one of your workshops regarding fake news. And my promise to him is that I will take Mutoto News to my community to do a workshop regarding that at a later stage when the kids have holidays, perhaps in December. We can work that out. Meanwhile, thank you everyone for coming together today. As the poster states, the concept is about celebrating children who are going through cancer. And I liked what Daniel had told me earlier. He said that even if it's breast cancer month, children are going through so much, and we don't need to only celebrate heroes that children look up to. The children themselves are heroes. And from the personal story Daniel has just shared, losing someone you met just within a span of a week, and she was a stranger to you, yet she connected you and showed you all those 30 other children who are suffering. I think that's an impression that will stay with you for a lifetime. And that's why I can hear the passion in your voice to help these children get the best that they can, because it's not an easy space to be in. And I think as far as our topic was concerned, we wanted to not only celebrate them, but have a bit of a deeper discussion that, for example, in the end, who else looks after them, who stands by for them, and who shows up for them eventually, because it's not easy. Adults get all the help they can get because of their children. But when the child is in this terminal illness, I mean, surely, how is that up for them? And I'm glad to see that my colleague Salome Joroge has joined in from Genesis. I'll give you a little bit about my connection with Genesis. Genesis is a retreat and wellness center. And as much as you can call it a rehab, we don't like to go with that word. And I know Salome will agree with that, because we believe rehab is a very short-term solution. It is such a quick fix. We want people to once and for all come back to a new lifestyle. It's not about going back to how they were, because how they were is how they ended up in the situation they're in. We want them to adopt a new lifestyle, which is more empowering, and also they can give back to the society in a more meaningful way, because they've gone through the stress that they've faced. So allow me to pass over to my colleague Salome to say a little bit about herself and a little bit more on Genesis, and to probably start us off in today's topic. Salome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Halim. My name is Salome from Genesis Retreat and Wellness Center. This is a drug rehabilitation center, as well as we deal with mental health issues. As we all know, mental health is a major thing in our society. Now, about Genesis, we just started a few months ago, and we are glad that we have seen a lot of progress. And not only the drug addiction we deal with, we normally deal with other mental issues And also when we come to the topic of today, people are affected mentally by the chronic diseases that people, and that can lead a person to being mental unstable. Can I continue with today's topic?
Yes, please start us off.
Okay. Our biggest topic today through is, who is the biggest supporter of these children who have terminal illnesses? And when we look at what is support, we need to know what is support. I can say that support is any aid or maybe any assistance that is given to these children, whether physical support or maybe emotional support or financial support. Those are our support that normally we give to this kid. But who is the biggest supporter? Who is to give this support? Who is to provide comfort? Who is to encourage them? Who is to offer a listening ear to these children? Because they really need us. They really need someone who they can, a shoulder to cry on. When these children are sick, they go through a lot of distress. The family go through a lot of distress, and even financially and all that. But who is the biggest supporter? For me, I say the biggest supporter, it is me and you. Because if we are not there for these children, if we are not there for these families, they lose hope. The biggest supporter, it is me and you. And when I say about me and you, I'm talking about me and you as a parent. Me and you as a parent. How do we offer support? How do we, give a helping hand to these children, to these people who really wonderful creatures that they really need us? One, as a parent, I understand that my child is having this terminal illness. That understanding itself is a kind of support. Understanding that maybe this child has derailed body growth, that itself is support. They feel that someone out there is understanding them and what they are going through. Number two, as a parent, I need to be there for this kid in treatment management, making them understand that this, it might be a chronic thing, it might be something that will last long, but I'm always there for you. But my biggest question is, how do we do it? Number one, we, as a parent, me and you as a parent, we need to communicate openly with this kid. We need not going behind their back and talking about something that is behind their back. We need to communicate openly. We need to communicate, bring communication very close to them, because if we don't reach out for them, no one else will. We need to communicate openly, that they, without putting barriers between me and that child. We need to communicate openly so that they feel that when they talk, when they say something, they, even if they want to give a feedback or they want to say what they are going through, someone is there, because communication is there. Number two, as a parent, I need to use appropriate and consistent discipline when I am disciplining them. What do I say by appropriate? Use appropriate words, appropriate discipline, because many people in this world, they don't die because of what they are going through. They die, or maybe they go down as a result of external stigmas that is brought upon them by people. And in this case, maybe their loved ones. And also, when we say appropriate, how do I communicate with this child in front of other children? How do I communicate with this child when other children maybe are there? Do I discriminate this kid? Do I talk ill about this kid? How do I communicate? How do I present this child in terms of in front of other children? Then, as a parent, me and you as a parent, I need to promote treatment adherence. It is me as a parent, you as a parent, who will make this child understand that at this hour you need to take your drug, at this hour you need to take your meals, at this hour you know that they need to be part and parcel of their treatment. And by doing that, that is making them understand what they are going through, making them understand that if you don't take your medication on time, if you don't take your meals on time, this can happen to you. But as I said, communication. As I said, communication. Through giving this child a shoulder to cry on, it promotes, it restores hope. It gives them motivation to live for that day. It gives them a sense that I am not alone in this. Someone else is holding my hand. And then, as of me and you, as a parent, we need to maintain schedule. Let me know maybe the days they are going for clinics, checkups, and all that. And let this child also know it is part of it is also your duty, because we want them to be part and parcel of this treatment. So on a particular date you're going to, in their mind they will know that that particular date my parent is there, my mother is there, my dad is there. They will take me to see a doctor because they love me. They don't take me there just to feel pain of the needles and all that, but they take me there because they love me. When we talk of emotional support from the family, or from me as a mother, as a dad, as a guardian who is living with this child, one, when you talk of emotional support, let's be compassionate and have empathy to these children. Let's be compassionate and have empathy, putting ourselves in their shoes, understanding their world, understanding what they are going through, understanding their needs, putting ourselves in their shoes. Then emotional support is showing interest in support and this child's maybe journey of life. Yes, they are sick, but we have to work with them. If we fail to work with them, or maybe we don't show interest that I am ready, I'm always here for you, they might feel I am unwanted. They might feel that they are not respected, their needs are not respected because they are sick. They start developing other mental issues like stress, sadness, anger, and all that. So when we talk of emotional support, we need to be there for these children. Then let's give them value. Even if they are sick, they are still our children. We are their biggest supporter. We are their biggest pillar. Then when I am working or maybe helping them, let me know that this child has also value. There's a place in this family kwa this child ameshikilia or holding on, maybe importance of this child. Even if the child is sick, there's still something important about this child. Then we should reflect on what we say before we say it. As a guardian, I need to reflect on what I say or do before I see or I do. This is because some words hurt more than a sword. Some words can kill. Our actions can promote or kill. So it is our duty, me as a guardian, being the biggest supporter of this child, let me first and foremost reflect on what I'm going to say to this kid. Reflect on the actions that I'm going to take, the things that I do in front of them. Still, as a parent, I'm showing emotional support. Let me not discriminate this kid. Let me not label this kid. You know, when they are playing with the rest, let me show him or her that you are as important as other kids. Then, when we talk of discriminating, as we said, some actions can kill. Discriminating, lack of compassion, diminishing this child, all this can bring a child to a dilemma, and this child might feel hopeless. I say the biggest supporter of these children, it is me and you. Me and you as a teacher. Most of the time, these children, they go to school. Yes. They spend most of the hours in school with the teacher. Yes. That makes a teacher another biggest supporter of this child. That makes a teacher like the second parent of this child. The teacher, as I said, as a parent, they should reflect on what they say. You find that some teachers, not in most cases, but you see some teachers, they normally maybe discriminate this child. This child starts having inferiority complex. This child starts having self-pity. This child starts feeling that I can never make it in life because of a comment that a teacher made in class. So when we talk when we say a teacher being the biggest supporter, a teacher should understand that this child has two things to handle. One, the academic, and two, the condition that they are in. So, or they are facing. So in this case, a teacher, we should be able to recognize that this child is struggling in two ways, the education and the disease. Then, as a teacher being the biggest supporter, I need to know guidance on what to do in case of any emergency, because some of these conditions, sometimes they change with time, or maybe you see something has happened to this child immediately, a condition, something that was not there, they start developing something. So as a teacher, I need some guidance on how to help this child, because as I said, I am one of the biggest supporters. Still, as a teacher, because I am one of the biggest supporters, I need to identify the triggers in case of any in class. There are some who are triggered by light, a lot of noise, the environment that this kid is in. I need to understand the triggers because I want to support this kid, and so that this kid will be in a safer and comfortable environment. Another thing, as a teacher, I need to know how to understand this kid is I need to, the expectations, yes, are there, but I don't expect as much as from other students. Because as I said from the beginning, being the biggest supporter, I need to understand this child is handling the disease and the academics. I said the biggest supporter of this is me and you. Me and you as a community. Sometimes community can make or destroy. As I said, words, actions can hurt. The community, we need to create awareness to each other. We need to love these families, because sometimes you find that there's a certain family is discriminated as a result of what their child is going through, what their child is suffering from. They get labeled. Some even go to an extent of saying maybe they did not do this, they did this, or, but as a community, we need to come together, show love, compassion, empathy, togetherness as we are trying to help this child, because without the community, this child who is suffering, they might not be able to go a long way because of the stigma that is from the society. Remember, I said some things that bring people down, they are external. And if we can avoid the external things or the external effects, that means we will be able to help this child in one way or the other.
And Salome, I also believe when you say about community, I think there is a huge financial constraint that happens.
Sure.
Cancer is not cheap. So, and you mentioned about stigmatization. The community should come together. They may not be able to solve the financial strain completely, but at least offer support in understanding, listening, and the love and compassion, like you've mentioned. Sure. Sometimes the family members just want to be heard because of the frustrations they're undergoing. And you were right in saying that the child is already battling with a terminal illness. And then there's the academic part. If they are feeling left behind, the rest of the family, and especially cousins who are of the same age, they can offer more support and, allow a bit more play and socialization, so that we don't know how much life the child has amongst themselves, but at least we can help take the burden off.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Helene.
So I believe you've really shed a lot of light on support. I've heard you talk about parents. I've heard you talk about teachers. Sometimes teachers, like you said, they also need support and psychoeducation on how to look out for the signs, how these children need assistance. And then at the end of it all, it's the community and the society amongst the bigger family that can give relief to these children. Because ultimately, one child suffering does affect everybody else. And those that do make it, like I think Daniel and others have said ahead, these are our shujas. They are our soldiers. They deserve the celebration, acknowledgement for fighting, for trying to survive, despite all the odds against them.
Sure.
I appreciate it. So I believe, Daniel, you can guide us. I know we had a scheduled time. We've run a little late, but I believe everyone has their respective appointments. So I believe maybe we can revisit this topic at a later date, or try trauma with children at a later date as another topic to discuss amongst ourselves.
Yes, Aline, I agree. There's a lot we can discuss around childhood cancer. We can't exhaust that in a single meeting. And I would like to appreciate Salome for her insights. You have shared great insights. These children need our support. The entire community needs to rally around them and offer them every necessary and available support. For me, when you touched on awareness, that's where my passion is, raising awareness. Many people don't understand that, or don't even appreciate, or are not aware that cancer affects even children. Actually, it might sound like really, but yes, go out there and you'll find that most people think cancer is a lifestyle disease that comes at a later stage in life after maybe being exposed to everything that we're told that, when you eat this you'll get cancer, when you eat this you'll get cancer. So they think that that's a disease that you can only get at an advanced age. They don't appreciate that we have children who are battling cancer, and children too are affected by cancer. And so we need to do a lot of awareness amongst the communities in our wherever we are best. Let's talk about childhood cancer. We are all tech savvy. I'm sure we have social media accounts. We can raise awareness on childhood cancer. And just to get people appreciate that cancer affects children. Once we know this, then we are going to, there's going to be a ripple effect. When there is increased awareness, there will be early diagnosis. Along the years, as I've been interacting with children battling cancer, most of them end up dying. Actually, statistics show that cancer children in Kenya, a majority die. Only 20% survive. 80% succumb. Imagine, out of 100, let's talk numbers. Out of 10, only 2 will survive. Imagine, this is serious. We need to be talking about it. This can't be happening in this time and age, when we know that when there's an early diagnosis, then there's treatment. It's not actually a terminal illness if it's diagnosed early. They die because it's diagnosed late. And there are different reasons why there's the late diagnosis in Kenya. One of them is ignorance, that many people don't know children can get cancer. And so when a child falls sick, what they do, even medics, when a child shows up in a clinic in a village somewhere where cancer is not well known, and they're maybe showing signs of cancer, but a medic will not imagine, let's start with screening for cancer. They'll screen for malaria, they'll screen for typhoid, the diseases that we know in our minds, in quotes, children suffer from. So they'll screen for malaria, typhoid, and then they'll not get any of those, and then give them painkillers and tell them, go. If the pain persists, come back. And they do that. By the time they are referring this child for specialist treatment where cancer probably will be screened, it's late in time. And so there's very little that can be done for these children. So once we raise awareness, there will be early diagnosis and will save lives. That's just one of them. But also, I think this is at a policy level. And I think as Mtoto News, we are going to take it up with Harleen and Genesis so that we can have, because I know there's also a shortage of specialists, especially on pediatric oncologists in Kenya. There are very few, and they're concentrated in Nairobi and Eldoret, probably because of MTRH, where the big hospitals are. But children who are suffering from cancer in other parts of the country, they will most likely die even before being diagnosed. So the diagnoses that we know are just a tip on the iceberg, because we don't have enough specialists in Kenya to screen children early, so that we can have early diagnosis and therefore treatment for these children, so that we can save more lives. When you compare statistics in Kenya and generally Africa to the Western countries, 80% of children in Western countries survive, and then 80% in Africa and Kenya die. Just look at that. 80 in the other world are surviving, 80 in this part of country are dying. And I haven't seen government or policy makers take it up. I've seen people trying to come up with initiatives around childhood cancer, around oncology, but nothing much comes out of it. And as both Harleen and Salome touched on it, cancer treatment is very, very, very expensive. Very expensive. Before, NHIF, the National Hospital Insurance Fund, took up paying partially for cancer treatment. Most children used to drop out of treatment because cancer treatment is prolonged. It's not a one-off thing. It's not some of them will stay on treatment for 2, 3, 4 years. There was a time I used to go to Kenyatta Hospital way back in 2012. There were children who were abandoned at the hospital. So they came in, they were diagnosed with cancer, they got admitted, and then it took forever for them to be discharged. And by the time they were being discharged, even before being discharged, once a parent notices the bill has crossed 5 million, and this is a parent from a village somewhere in Nyanza or Western, they don't have any hope of raising 5 million. So what do they do? And they have other children to take care of. There was a boy who was from a single mother, and he was admitted for over a year. So the mother had other children to take care of. And so what happens? They actually, let's not use abandon, but they leave them under the care of the medics, and they go to take care of the other children. And we all know children are vulnerable. They need support. Even just the presence of a parent will help them heal faster. I know things have improved. The children, when you go to Kenyatta Hospital right now, the hospital is doing an amazing job. We have people who come on board, who go there just to offer psychological support to the children. I know the children are accessing the best medication there, but a lot still needs to be done, especially in towns and hospitals outside Nairobi. We need the government and other non-state actors to equip and train medics. We can have the already trained doctors to undergo further treatment on oncology, pediatric oncology. We don't have enough pediatric nurses. We don't have enough pediatric oncologists in Kenya. I think there are even less than 10 in the entire country. We have more than 20 million children. Out of this, we have a good number of them right now battling cancer, but they don't have even enough specialists to support them, to engage with them, to offer them the treatment and the necessary support that they need from medics. And then, of course, Salome already touched so much on support from the community and parents, but also I feel like we need. I have interacted with these children, and I know Salome touched on this, especially on their schooling. Most of them miss out on school days, and some of them even for a year, they will be out of school battling with this disease. And then when they go back, they're reeling from the side effects of the treatment. Probably they had very beautiful hair, they had very well-built body, and then when they go back, they don't have the hair, they have been affected by the treatment, and the first thing they have to encounter is stigmatization. You know how children can be mean to each other innocently. And so we need also to raise awareness. There was a time I came up while in campus in Eldoret, we came up with what we used to somehow call it, I don't want to use that term, but reintegration back to school. That before this child is discharged and goes back to school, we go to that school and talk to the teachers and talk to the children, especially classmates, and tell them, you remember so-and-so, who was he? He was our classmate. And then what happened? They got sick and they went to the hospitals. And then we tell them what their classmate has been going through. We tell them your friend has been sick from cancer. We tell them about cancer. That way, we were already raising awareness on childhood cancer, but our ultimate goal was to help them understand their colleague and classmate when they come back, and also support them and not stigmatize them. So if that friend of theirs or classmate had lost hair, we tell them in advance before the classmate shows up. If they had been affected, health-wise, physically, we tell them so that they know they know what to expect. When their colleague and classmate comes in, they can show some mercy, some compassion, empathy, but also support them and not ridicule them on what happened to their hair or their body, or laugh at them when they probably fall in their performance. So we used to go to schools, we identify a child. Of course, we used to go and interact with the children, cancer children in hospital, and then we ask them about their school, and then we go to their school before admission, and we tell the classmates, of course with permission from the parents. Sometimes we were even accompanied by parents when going to their schools, and help teachers and students, especially classmates, understand their friend before they come. And then we used to accompany the child also on her first day after treatment, her first day in school after treatment, so that we can help them reintegrate back to class and to their friends, and also to their help teachers also appreciate what the child is going through. So there needs to be a lot of sensitization in communities. Salome already talked about this. We can try and see what can we do in our individual capacities. We can rally our communities and see what we can do. I was doing this while in second year in the university, and I did this with the help of my course mates. Actually, we were just about 10, and we supported more than 100 children to reintegrate safely back to school without stigmatization or ridicule from their classmates and friends in school, and also help teachers appreciate what the child is going through and offer them the necessary support. Yes, Helene. Okay. And then another thing that I want to touch on, but I'm trying to avoid repeating what Salome already talked about.
Okay, I think I don't know if anybody can hear me, but I think we can conclude the meeting for today and recap. I'm sorry I had to step out a little.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. And we understand we are quite late. We were supposed to be done by almost a few minutes or almost an hour ago. I think Helene has already dropped. She's rushing to another meeting. But before we finish, I will let Lisa share what she has on today's topic, and then we can get reactions from the children in the room, Brian King, Faith, and Omar, on what they understand about childhood cancer and what we can do to support these children at our individual capacities. And have they ever probably encountered a child with cancer, and how was the feeling? We can probably say we conclude this in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So Liz, you can share, and then we can get reactions from the kids in the room, and then we can chat the way forward and agree on what we can do next, or when we can have another discussion, probably even a physical one. I can actually get children battling cancer. We can have a physical meeting, and we can stream it live from our Mtoto News offices in Nairobi. But before that, over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Dan. And Salome, you guys have shared quite a lot. Most of the things that you have talked about is what I had also come across just as I researched on childhood cancer. Like most people, I don't think childhood cancer is something that is very well known here in Kenya, because very little is being done to help children who have or who develop cancer. And something that I noticed is that for adults, it's very easy to determine the causes of their cancer. Some could be because of environmental factors. Maybe if an adult was working in an industrial plant or lived in an area where they were exposed to fumes that made their health worsen and then develop cancer. For children, you cannot say it's environmental factors because they are very young. For most of them, they develop cancer because as they grow up, maybe their cell division is wrong, or it's abnormal. For some, and besides cell division, I think for some it's just I don't know how to put it, but wrong cell division is one of the causes. So environmental factors are not part of the main reasons why children develop cancer. And it's very sad, even looking at the numbers, learning that the survival rate for children in Kenya and even in Africa as a whole is very low. And as Dan, you mentioned, comparing the survival rate of developing countries and developed countries, it's like an inverse. In developed countries, you said it's 80% survival rate, but here in Africa and in Kenya, the survival rate is 20%. So that's a very, very big difference, and it's very shocking and alarming, and something needs to be done about treatment and diagnosis of childhood cancer. It should be done from a very, very early age once it is diagnosed or it is spotted. And something else I'd just like to add is that in Kenya, we have, I think, the only place where children receive treatment for cancer, like again, you mentioned, Dan, is at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret and at Kenyatta National Hospital. And looking at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, it treats about 100 to 110 children every year, which is very low. You can imagine how many children suffer from cancer in the country, and only 100 or 110 children are being treated in this one hospital. So it's very alarming again, and it also goes to show that access to the healthcare facilities for children living with cancer is very low. Parents of these children, most of them live below the poverty line. Some of them are so poor they cannot afford treatment. Some live so far away from these healthcare facilities, so it's very difficult for them to travel those long distances to come and bring their children to hospital. And then also thinking about the high cost of treatment, again, it's very discouraging for them because they cannot afford. And as Danny said, that NHIF was not very popular during those days when you were in campus and visiting children suffering from cancer at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Nowadays, yes, it's becoming popular, but still people have to contribute. And if families are living below the poverty line, then it's very difficult for them to set aside money to contribute to NHIF, yet they still need to provide food for their families. They need to take their children to school and provide other basic needs for their families. So that is another big, big problem that I have seen. And then something else is the negative attitude towards cancer. For most people who do not understand how to provide support and knowing the devastating effect that cancer gives or brings about on people who are suffering from it, especially adults, you can imagine how it is for children, because if adults also suffer very severe, side effects from the treatments of cancer, going through radiation and chemotherapy, losing hair, losing body weight, and just them changing very drastically within a short period of time because of treatment, then children who undergo the same processes, the same treatments, maybe not at a very intense capacity, but again, it still goes to affect them. And people who do not understand or do not empathize with children who are suffering from cancer, they tend to have these negative thoughts about it being a terminal disease, that some even lose hope that their children are going to survive or even beat cancer. But we've seen that there are treatments available, but again, these treatments come at a very high cost. So these negative thoughts of high cost of treatment, people do not survive cancer, it's terminal, someone is going to die, it's not helping children. And children are very young, they still have a lot of time ahead of them to grow and to develop. So if the people around them, especially families and communities who are not providing the psychosocial support, who do not empathize with their children and people within the children within their families who are going through cancer, it's very difficult for them even to to fight this disease from a psychological perspective. So positive attitudes should be encouraged from family members and community members, so that they can also help their children to mentally fight this disease and to have hope that they will get better. And also just to emphasize on awareness, public awareness of this disease. People need to know that childhood cancer is as tough and it's as serious as any other disease. And if people are not aware of the effects that children go through, then it's very difficult for them to even offer support, because they do not understand what children are going through. Even if for some they would, because maybe someone in their family or within their community is going through this disease, suffering from this disease, and so it's easy for them to offer support. It's easy for them to understand the effects of childhood cancer for the children who are going through them. But for those who do not know, it's important to offer public awareness of this disease, so that people can be able to offer their support and to know how to offer this support as well, because offering support is one thing, but knowing how to do it is another thing. So it's very important for people to know about childhood cancer. I think that is it for me. I don't want to go into the recommendations right now, but yeah, that's all I had, just to avoid repeating what has already been said. Thank you, Dan. Dan, over to you. Okay. So I think I'll just guide the kids who are here in this platform. I can see Omar and Brian. Maybe you can just share a bit on what you know about childhood cancer, and if you know someone who has or who is currently going through it, what has been experienced with them, and just generally, what do you know about childhood cancer? So I'll start with Brian. Brian? Okay, I think Brian is not ready, so we'll go to Omar. Omar, you can share a bit on what childhood cancer, what you understand by childhood cancer, and if you've had a friend or someone close to you who is currently or has through this, who has suffered from this this disease, maybe your experience with them, spending time with them, what was your experience, and just share a bit on what childhood cancer is to you, what you understand by it.
Thank you so much, Liz. I had a problem with my audio. I don't know if you guys can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Oh,
yes, go ahead.
So what I understand about childhood cancer awareness, I guess this is a time which helps us to highlight the impact of cancer on children and young people and also their families. Because I think all of us understand that the impact of childhood cancer, translates into years of lives which are lost, and more significant inequalities than economic and also economic difficulties. So I think, according to me, I feel like children who are undergoing this challenge or this disease are children who are kind of disadvantaged, because you find that most of the time they cannot get to pursue their dreams, they cannot get to pursue some of their careers that they wanted to do, and in turn you find that even as a country and even as the community and the society, we're also failing. When you look at it in the perspective of in high income countries, more than 80% of children with cancer are cured, but in many low and middle income countries, the cure rate is about 20%. So you find that the children who are mostly disadvantaged are the ones who can't even get that medication, and the ones who cannot even access this expensive tablets and all that. And globally, 280,000 children aged between 0 and 19 are diagnosed with cancer each year. And this is actually quite sad, because you find that if 280,000 children are diagnosed with cancer each year, you find there's a really huge percentage of them having dying because of the same disease. So you find that as a community, as children, as the country, as the government, we need to start putting these priorities serious, because I think during this meeting, we mentioned, I think Aline mentioned that children are the ones who are mostly affected by cancer. And in turn, you find that if they're the ones who are being affected, that means the future of our countries, of our continents, they're in risk. And we don't have a good future, don't have a bright future yet. We need to be able to ensure that we are fighting this. So my personal experience with cancer, I have had friends who have been through this. I want to say that, I thank God that maybe I was not disadvantaged, maybe to have, maybe to get this disease. But I do understand that I have friends, I have had people in my family who have had this, this cancer. And when you look at them, sometimes you get even sad as a child, even. Maybe you're even looking at adults, not even children. You get even sad. You're like, this is something that can easily be cured if the person had some amount. And then you find that in the perspective of children, or maybe my friends, maybe in school, you find that when we the others are trying to go to do extracurricular activities, especially uko kwa field, we are in the field, you're trying to maybe we are running, we are playing some football, some others are in basketball. These children, you find that most of the time they just stay in class and they try and they just read, or sometimes they sleep. So you find that they even feel bad, they even get traumatized because they cannot even go to the field and play. And this is something that I feel like as a child and as child advocates, we need to be speaking more about, because if it's something that's affecting a really huge numbers, you have had 280,000 children are being affected. That is according to the Pan-African Health Organization, Pan-African Health Organization. They're saying that 280,000 children aged 0 to 19 are being affected. That means that this is something that's affecting a really huge population of the world. And we need to start speaking about this issue, and we need to start talking about cancer awareness, because as Dan said, it is not a small disease. It's not something that you can just say it's malaria that can easily be cured maybe in many countries, or it is just homa, something that can easily go away. This is something that's tough, this is something that's hard, and if it's affecting children, that means that it's affecting the future of the country, the future of the world. So we need to start speaking about it. And personally, from my end, as a child advocate here at Mtoto News, we are really going to try and speak this out, and through our social media platforms, because we are tech savvy, through our social media platforms, through our many contents here at Mtoto News, we can be able to try and push this agenda forward, and we can try and advocate for these children, especially who are going through this cancer, because it's not an easy disease. And I have seen how they take, the medications and all that. So you find that these children are actually going through a lot. So on my end, we are going to try a lot and ensure that we raise awareness about this and about the children are going through this. We're also going maybe to plan with the help of Liz and Dan and Brian, and also Faith here. We can be able to plan maybe a day we go and visit these children in the hospitals. I know there's a children cancer unit in Kenyatta, which we can go visit, and we can go talk to them a little bit, give them some hope. We can also go with a few board games, we play with them. You can also get to talk to them, and in turn, at least as an organization and we as individuals, you find that we have done a lot to help and raise awareness on this cancer. So I think that's maybe all I'm going to speak from my end. maybe if I don't know if Brian is back. If Brian is back, I think oh wait, I think he has left. So let me give it back to Liz. So thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you, Omar, for sharing. I believe there's a lot to be done. Omar, you can meet. Thank you. There's a lot that needs to be done concerning childhood cancer awareness, just from what you have shared today. And it's important for everyone in society to know, especially the children, because when Dan was speaking, I remember he said that when children are being, those who had dropped out of school because of the disease, and then once they return, the children are not able to understand the changes that their fellow classmate has gone through when it comes to cancer treatment. So it's important for children to also understand some of the effects that cancer can have on them as children, and even on their fellow children, so that once they see a friend or a neighbor coming back to school and having changed a lot, they're able to understand and even empathize and offer their support as much as they can. So I think, I don't know if Brian, you're able to speak just in 1 minute before we close.
Okay, my internet has been really unstable, but I think right now I'm okay. So yes, I guess we tend to forget just how much cancer is actually a menace to children. We tend to forget that it's one of the diseases that we just can't do anything about. You can't take supplements to prevent cancer. Well, I know there are some drugs children take, but I know it's just dangerous, and anyone here can have cancer. The only way to actually help yourself is by getting tested. So I guess one of the best ways to actually help children fight cancer is by helping them find out about it in earlier stages. And we also tend to forget those children who cancer actually recurs to again after they heal. It tends to emotionally even scar them. And yes, I'm actually glad we took this day to just celebrate them as our heroes. And it is really important we actually start raising awareness on cancer, especially to children. We need to let parents know that it is not only old people who get cancer, even children get cancer sometimes, and it should actually be mandatory for children to be tested. So yeah, that's my take on the topic.
Thank you so much, Brian, for your insights. I think we can just take a minute or so, or less than a minute to close, and just to thank all of you for attending the webinar and sharing your insights and just a few recommendations on what can be done to raise awareness. I know this webinar today, it came again as a short notice, but we are grateful that you're able to join, and we hope that in future we will have some time to spread the word about it, so we can have more people join and share their insights and knowledge on childhood cancer awareness, and even just give a few recommendations on what can be done in terms of policy, in terms of spreading awareness, in terms of collaboration with different stakeholders in the health industry, the government as well, to have more facilities and to provide different ways in which we can help children who are suffering from cancer, even visiting them in hospitals, just offering that support that they need, and educating the public on what childhood cancer is will be very, very important to give the word out there. And hopefully even we can get more companies or more sectors to fund cancer treatment for children who are unable to cater for the costs and the expenses of cancer treatment. So I'd just like to thank you, Salome from Genesis. Thank you for sharing your insights as well. We hope to collaborate in future on the next Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Hopefully we will do it during the month of, I think it's September. Yeah, it was last month. We schedule another webinar in the month of September next year, and just to get more people to join and share their views on childhood cancer.
Thank you too for the invites. We look forward to having more webinars.
Thank you so much, Salome. So I think we can close for today, and hopefully we will get to share any information that comes up. We'll communicate with Dan. Should there be any other training and webinar, as Dennis had shared earlier with Halim, concerning the Sauti Zetu training on fake news. So you can be able to plan ahead for that training, and then proper communication will be given. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you have a lovely day, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Recording stopped.